days they had. O King Yudhishthira, because of your service to the Supreme Lord, all of you Pandavas defeated the greatest dangers posed by numerous kings and demigods. By serving the lotus feet of Krishna, you conquered great enemies who were like elephants, and thus you collected ingredients for sacrifice. By his grace may you be delivered from material involvement. Purport. Placing himself as an ordinary householder, Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired from Narada Muni how a Grihamudha, a person who is entangled in household life and who thus continues to remain a fool, can be delivered. Narada Muni encouraged Maharaj Yudhishthira by saying, "You are already on the safe side because you, along with your entire family, have become a pure devotee of Krishna. By Krishna's grace, the Pandavas conquered in the battle of Kurukshetra and were saved from many dangers posed not only by kings but sometimes even by the demigods. Thus they are a practical example of how to live in security and safety by the grace of Krishna. Everyone should follow the example of the Pandavas, who showed how to be saved by the grace of Krishna. Our Krishna consciousness movement is intended to teach how everyone can live peacefully in this material world and at the end of life return home back to Godhead. In the material world there are always dangers at every step. Padam padam yadipadam atesham. Nonetheless, if one takes shelter of Krishna without hesitation and keeps under the shelter of Krishna, he can easily cross the ocean of nescience. Samashitaje vadabalava plavam mahatpadam vamidasho marari. This devotee, this great ocean of nescience, becomes like a puddle of water in the hoofprints of a cow. A pure devotee, without embarrassing himself by trying for elevation in so many ways, stays in the safest position as a servant of Krishna, and thus his life is eternally safe without a doubt. Yatahi yuyam nipadeva dushchajad apad ganadu taratatmana prabho yapada punkya ruha sevaya bhavan aharashin nirjita diggajak pratun. O King Yudhishthira, because of your service to the Supreme Lord, all of you Pandavas defeated the greatest dangers posed by numerous kings and demigods. By serving the lotus feet of Krishna, you conquered great enemies who were like elephants, and thus you collected ingredients for sacrifice. By his grace may you be delivered from material involvement. So Narada Muni is advising that on a normal situation, when there are no particular disturbing conditions, one can remain in his own particular place and execute the principles of Krishna consciousness and gradually make advancements in spiritual life. Here, Narada Muni is explaining to Maharaj Yudhishthira that the Pandavas, headed by King Yudhishthira, were always safe in any condition of life because they fully depended on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They never had any need to worry. They never thought of taking any other shelter because they always were totally dependent on Krishna. This material world is a very dangerous place, and there are dangers at every step. Even if one may come to this material world without any karma, as soon as he comes here, things start happening, and he immediately becomes entangled in these fruitive activities. And in fact, he may even start making plans in the material world somehow and become entangled more and more and gradually become overwhelmed by the material energy completely and totally and remain here for a long, long, long time. In fact, this is how we all come to this world, stay in this world, and remain here by making so many plans for material gratification in one form or another. People are making plans again and again. And although they're making so many plans, they can never fulfill those plans. Those plans are never fulfilled. Because the material nature does not give the facility for one to actually fulfill all of his plans. And thus, because in this lifetime our plans are not fulfilled, we must take another lifetime to fulfill them. This subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego remains with the living entity as he transmigrates from body to body, life after life. And thus, one will have to return in a new lifetime to fulfill the desires of his previous lifetime, which were not fulfilled. When one makes plans for material enjoyment, even if it's very subtle, next lifetime you'll have to take up a body just meant for fulfilling those plans again. And in this way, he will have to continuously change his bodies lifetime after lifetime, because one's material plans are never fulfilled. Material existence is going on, and it will continue to go on, because material nature is not meant for the satisfaction of the individual soul. The material energy, by its very definition, cannot satisfy the living entity. The living entity can only be satisfied by rendering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Beyond that, there's no question of satisfying the living entity by any other means. Although we may think under various forms of illusion that we will be satisfied by this material activity or that material activity, it simply makes us bewildered and we act like a fool. Dancing dog in the hands of the material nature, the three modes of nature, kicking us this way and kicking us that way. Therefore, it's only when one comes to this Krishna consciousness movement that one is actually able to overcome the very stringent laws of material nature. And even then, one may have a hard time doing that so long as he does not give up his material plan-making propensity. The mind may have so many desires which flow in and flow out like rivers flowing through the land. But one whose mind is like the great ocean, where so many rivers are continuously filling it, but the ocean is never disturbed by that. He can conquer over this material nature. But that means that one must never be agitated by the material world or material plans for making arrangements to enjoy. Although the material body and mind and senses may say so many things, one who's intelligent does not try to satisfy those desires, knowing full well that they are temporary, they are conditioned, and they are binding us to the material world. So, in this material world, there are so many ideas for sense gratification. And then we make plans. Yes, I will do like this, and I will enjoy like that. Then I will do like this, and I will enjoy like that. Then I will achieve like this, and then I will enjoy like that. And then I will do like this, and then I will become greater and greater. And at the end, one simply dies another lifetime in frustration, neither having accomplished any of his goals, or if he has accomplished the goal, not at all being satisfied by it. Let's say a person's goal is to have millions and millions marks. So that may be his goal, but even if he attains it, he's still not satisfied. He has to have millions and millions more. And even if he has millions and millions more, he's not satisfied because he's not getting any satisfaction. Simply eating better, Well, what is the difference? How much can you eat anyway? Whether it is more or less opulent, does that make it better? One can make things very opulent. Make everything out of cream, for instance. Then what happens? Then you get fat like a pig. Then you're not satisfied either. You may have very nice, tasty things. And then as you're getting big as a balloon, you're miserable because everybody looks at you, oh, look at him, he's big as a balloon. So, if you want to eat good, then you have to get fat good. If you want to sleep good all day, then you don't accomplish anything and you lose all your money. Therefore, these people who are making money all the time and become rich, they don't eat much either. Because they know if you eat too much, you get fat. And if you become fat, it doesn't matter if you're rich. Nobody likes you. And they don't sleep much because they know if they sleep too much, they'll not be able to make money. Or they'll lose the money they've got. So then they give up the sleeping business. But they try to engage in mating as much as possible. So then they are getting too much attached to some women who end up stealing away all their money. And then they're not satisfied either. Or they go through wives, one a year. Some even go through husband or wife. They're continuously changing every 5 months. In Hollywood, this is the rule. Always changing. So why always changing is going on? Because they're not satisfied. Even if you have so many cars, one for every day of the year, one won't be satisfied. How can these things satisfy the living entity? They are external. Therefore, the living entity can only be satisfied by rendering service to the Lord and nothing else. And so long he is not engaged in rendering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his whole life will become more and more like a waste of time. Therefore, this whole Krishna consciousness movement is meant to prove by good instruction and example that why should one waste his time day and night, living like the hogs and dogs, simply struggling hard for sense gratification, which can be easily achieved in the animal form without any difficulty. And animals don't feel guilt either. They feel no guilt when they're simply eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They have no higher purpose in life. They have no need to have a higher purpose in life. They don't have to worry about any relationships. They're simply just doing whatever they can do to gratify the senses, the mind, the intelligence of their animal ideas. They have mind, they have intelligence, they have senses. It functions the same way as the human form. However, the intelligence is fixed on one point: how to best eat, sleep, mate, and defend. Animal intelligence is simply scheming all the time how to get something to eat, searching for an opening in a door to run through to grab something, looking for some possibility for a nice place to sleep, trying to figure out where that barking is coming from the female dog, so he can get to that place, digging holes here and running there. Intelligence is there, but that intelligence is simply meant for dog activity. So to be an intelligent dog is no great achievement. One has to come to the point of detachment from this material world. Give up the plan-making idea. Give up this foolish idea to make an arrangement by which one will enjoy in this material world. One has to actually surrender to Krishna. And that means whatever the plan is of the spiritual master, one should follow it. And that's all. Follow that plan. Find out what it is and follow it. And follow it with one's life and soul. Then one will be able to conquer over the material energy. We have so many examples of people who even tried to surrender to Krishna But because they did not make the plan of the spiritual master their plan, they became entangled in materialistic existence and fell down. It's going on. It will continue to go on. So long as one does not make the instruction of the spiritual master his instruction. If one does not make the mission of the spiritual master his mission, if one does not make the idea of the spiritual master his idea, then one will fall down, because the material energy is very strong. The material energy is very harsh. And it just uses all tricks that could possibly be used to snatch away the conditioned soul, to take him away from the service of the Supreme. So this is not a very nice place, this world. It is not at all a nice place. In fact, it's a horrifying place. It's a place where there's danger at every step, where there's disturbance at every step, where at any moment the material nature can cause one immense trouble and force one into a new body against one's will. Therefore, the only means by which we can actually conquer over this material energy is to surrender to Krishna. And to surrender to Krishna means to surrender to his representative. That personality who's carrying the mission of the parampara. That personality who has actually got the instruction of the Supreme Lord firmly within his heart. And one should never think that this is an ordinary thing either. To actually surrender to the instructions of the spiritual master and Krishna is an extraordinary thing, because it totally contradicts the whole arrangement of the whole material world. The whole material world is organized in such a way that one will not at all surrender to the instruction of spiritual master or Krishna. One will reject these things, thinking that these are not at all practical for sense gratification. And that's absolutely right. Spiritual master never gives instruction by which you may be happy in sense gratification. Therefore, ordinary people are disturbed. They are thinking, how will I ever go on like this, simply surrendering all the time? For that end, varnashram is there, so that one, although contaminated, may act within his particular way, according to the nature, and still gradually make spiritual advancements. Thus he will engage in devotional service according to his acquired qualities under the modes of nature. Of course, that limits one, because sometimes emergency will be there, or sometimes need will be there, and one will have to do something else according to the need. And if one says, oh, I cannot do that, I'm a Brahmana, oh, I cannot do that, I'm a whatever, then he is taking a false bodily designation of life. Because when there is a need for serving Krishna, the devotee is ready to do anything to that end. It does not matter, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, anything. He's ready to just serve Krishna at any moment, in whatever way Krishna desires. That is a pure devotee. But nowadays, to find a pure devotee of the Lord is very, very rare. Because basically everybody is filled with material desires. For basically everyone wants to enjoy, and the ultimate enjoyment is sex life. Or else he's overwhelmed by fame, profit, and distinction, desires for these things. Basically the whole world is rotating on this sex business. And then, for those who've managed to sublimate it to some slight degree, they're simply interested in fame, in profit, and distinction. But to find an actually pure devotee of the Lord who really doesn't want to be involved in these things and just wants to serve Krishna is extremely rare. But when such a soul is found, one should surrender unto him fully and engage in his service, because by holding on to him, one will be dragged back to Godhead without a doubt. Just see so many examples of persons who developed some kind of Krishna consciousness by holding on to the coattails of the devotee of the Lord, but then thinking themselves to be very great because they were moving along so nicely, let go, thinking they would continue to go under their own power. But as soon as they let go, immediately they fell down. Because one's strength is only there, eternally, so long as he is holding on to the coattails of these spiritual masters. You know what a coattail is? It's just like, it's an archaic expression actually. It means that in the former days they had suits that had these big things in the back, remember? From the 1920s, so they're called coattails. So you hold on to those things and you get dragged along. So long as you're holding on to those things, that's alright. You can go very quickly, running behind, just like if you're skiing and you're holding on. But as soon as you let go, then immediately, boom, you fall over. Or you stop going forward. In other words, our spiritual advancement is totally dependent on how much we are surrendered to the mission and instruction of our spiritual master. And when that mission and instruction is not followed, or there is some defect, and we give it up, then immediately we cannot continue making advancements on the progressive path back home, back to Godhead. It has nothing to do with position. It has nothing to do with bodily strength. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with material expertise. It has nothing to do with wealth, how much you have or how much you don't have. It simply has to do with one thing: how surrendered one is to the instructions of his spiritual master. That's all that counts. If one is actually surrendered to the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master, then one will be able to go back home, back to Godhead without very much difficulty. And if one concocts other ideas out of ignorance, then he'll never be able to overcome this material energy. He'll take birth again. And if one concocts other ideas out of ignorance, then he'll never be able to overcome this material energy. He'll take birth again. Because his concoctions are part of his material schemes for gratifying his senses. And these schemes are not only from this lifetime, they may be from previous lifetimes or hundreds of lifetimes back, where we started a scheme. Some people make a scheme to become the king of the earth. Some people make a scheme to become the richest of all. Some people make a scheme to kill somebody else. Some people make a scheme to cheat someone. So many schemes may be there. And these schemes may be causing us to rotate in this material world again and again and again and again and again. These plans have to be given up. Don't even think that these plans we may have now for material enjoyment are brand new plans. They're old, ancient plans with cobwebs all over them. You don't know what a cobweb is either? So these old plans are going on. And we have to learn the point. The point is that whatever plan may be there in the material world, it's material and doomed to failure. Whatever scheme we may have in this material world, it's doomed to failure. We should simply engage ourselves under the instruction and order of the spiritual master and forget about everything else. And although that may be very, very difficult to understand, it must be done. Why must? Because without that, there's no other way to get out of the entanglement of the cycle of birth and death. So one should simply try to become freed from this material energy's grip by simply surrendering unto the lotus feet of the spiritual master's instructions and following them with great determination. And that will make a success in life. Anything else will be born of mental concoction, which is born of sense desire, and will be a total, utter failure. All right, Hare Krishna.